Thank you for checking out Coastal Community Church. We hope that you receive hope and encouragement through this week's message. If this ministry has impacted your life in any way, please share your story at mystory@coastalcommunity.tv. We hope you enjoy the service.
Well, good morning, Coastal. How you guys doing today? Come on. This is my people, my Pompano people. How you guys doing this morning? Yes, thank you. I love you guys. I love my church. You know, I'm so thankful. First of all, I believe that anytime we stand on a stage, sometimes we have to give honor where honor is due. You know, and I'm so thankful for a husband that believes in me, that challenges me, that motivates me, that is an incredible leader, not only in our family, but throughout our entire church. So I just want to say thank you to TJ for yes. Because it means so much in someone's life to have someone that kind of stands behind you and pushes you up and lifts you up in life. So I'm so thankful for that in a husband. But how many of you guys hate waiting in life? How many of you guys... Where are my horn honkers in South Florida? Oh, how many of you guys aren't even going to raise your hand even if I ask, like, if you're human? Because, yeah, thanks a lot. I hate waiting. And you know what? The other day, I noticed TJ started being a horn honker in South Florida. And I was like, dude, what are you doing? This is not who we are. We aren't from here. We don't honk before the light gets green. We don't do those things in life. Like, we just have to be patient. We have to wait. And it's so frustrating when life requires us to wait. I'm a Netflix watcher because you know what? I don't want to wait for the next season to come out or wait for the next week. I just want to binge watch through the whole season of something because I just don't want to wait. I want to know what's going to happen. Where's the Walking Dead people out there? Yes. So I wasn't a Walking Dead kind of show watcher or whatever, but every single Sunday, TJ was sitting on the couch, and I was like, I guess if I got to hang out with my husband, I have to watch The Walking Dead. So I had to sit next to him on the couch and watch this show, and slowly I became addicted. And I don't really want to wait for the next season to come out, but I have to because I need to know who got hit with the club. I mean, where are you guys at? I'm like, it's driving me nuts that I have to wait. I hate waiting. But how many of you guys know that there is some seasons in life, there are times in life that require us to wait? You know, there's so many people in life that are walking through difficult seasons, that are walking through challenges, that are walking through all of these things, and we're just like, I just want to be on the other side of this. I just want to see the resolution to this, but we have to wait. And there was a few years ago when I had traveled to Africa and I was on my way back, and the flight back from Africa is god-awful long. Okay, it is 16 hours long. And I had these special pills that I could fall asleep because I wasn't going to sit on that flight for 16 hours awake. So I had 16 hours back to Atlanta. And I get to Atlanta, and I'm finally on my last leg home, Atlanta to Fort Lauderdale, and I just wanted to get in the shower and take a shower, and I just wanted to sleep in my bed, and I just wanted to see my husband, and it's just like, okay, I'm almost there. And so we get close to Fort Lauderdale, and we start circling the airport. And I'm like, I'm so close, just land the dang plane. Like, I need to be home. And we're circling. And we're circling, and we're circling. 30 minutes, we're circling the airport. And I'm sitting there, I'm like, dude, can you just land the plane? I mean, what is so bad down there that you can't land the plane? I want to get home. And what I didn't understand is because that pilot is circling, it's because they're in a holding pattern that they're protecting us from something that's happening down below that we can't see, that we can't understand, that we can't figure out. All we know is we're sitting here waiting, and I can't figure out why the heck we can't land. And I think a lot of us are stuck in this holding pattern in life where we don't understand why aren't things working out, and why can't I just find resolution to this, and we just feel like we're in this holding pattern of waiting. And so many times in a holding pattern, we don't understand why we're where we're at. But the reality is that there's this situation, there's these circumstances that we can't see and that we can't understand that we're being protected from. You know, and in life, I think so many of us are just in this holding pattern. Where's all my single people? We're in a relationship series. Single people, raise your hand. Everybody look around. Everybody look around. Those are your options. There's a lot of girls here. If you have single guy friends, you need to invite them to church. There are some amazing girls here, but they won't take just any joker. So don't just, call your friend that plays video games all day. Like, he has to have his crap together. So there's a lot of people, and I think especially we're in a relationship series, there's a lot of single people that are sitting there going, man, I've been waiting, and I've been waiting, and I've been waiting, and I don't understand why I can't find the one. We ask ourselves these questions, what's wrong with me, or am I not doing something right, or, we just process through all of these questions. And I don't think it's just with single people. I think any of us that have experienced anything in life, there's so many times when we have to wait financially, when our marriage is in trouble, and there's a period of time where we have to wait to see resolution. Waiting is such a huge part of life. And I want to show you guys a story in the Bible about two sisters that made two different choices. Because the reality is when we're waiting, we have some choices to make. And there was these two girls, and their names were Ruth and Orpah. Not Oprah, Orpah. You know what? Somebody told me that Oprah was supposed to be Orpah, but they wrote it wrong on her birth certificate. I thought that was interesting. So there's these two sisters, Ruth and Orpah. And they grew up in this culture in Moab, a city called Moab. And in Moab, it was a very oppressive culture. They grew up with a very polytheistic religion, which is all about worshiping gods and goddesses and all of these different things. They had some very morbid rituals and cultures that they used to do. They used to sacrifice children in fire. Like, I can imagine that these two girls grew up with fear for their life, even within their family, of thinking, hey, am I going to be the next one that gets sacrificed? Like, they were facing a lot of confusion, a lot of fear, a lot of anxiety, a lot of worry, just for living in the place that they did. And about 30 to 60 miles out, there was a land called Israel. And in Israel, they had one God, and his name was Jehovah. And Jehovah was the one true God, the Redeemer, the one that brought freedom to people, the one that brought hope, that brought redemption. And there was this family that was struggling in Israel to find work, and so they began to move to Moab. And when they got to Moab, they began to blend with that culture, and the family ends up meeting Ruth and Orpah. And this family had two sons, and these two sons end up marrying Ruth and Orpah. Well, in those times, those daughters that were getting married would take on the religion of the sons or the family. And so these girls who grew up in a very polytheistic gods and goddesses and all these things and fear end up converting to Jewish people. And so where they learn to believe in one God, a God that redeems them, a God that brings them hope, a God that brings them restoration, a God that brings peace. And they begin to shift their mindset of how they grew up. And so these girls begin to see a different picture in life than what they'd always seen. And their mindset begins to change, and things begin to change. And eventually, something crazy happens. Their father-in-law dies. And then not too long after that, both sons pass away. So these two women find themselves widowed. And in that culture, in that time, based on Jewish laws and Jewish tradition, you could not remarry anyone. You had to remarry within your family. You had to marry a brother, an uncle. You had to marry someone in that family would redeem you. And so they're faced with this choice of what do I do? And their mother-in-law decides that she's going to go back to Israel, where her family is, where her religion is, the culture that she knows, the people that value her. And so she chooses to make a decision to go back to this place that's going to bring so much life and so much hope to her life after she's experienced so much loss. And her two daughter-in-laws decide that they're going to go with her because they've experienced something that they've never experienced before in their culture. See, they're free of fear, they're free of religion, they're free of all of these different things that's been weighting them down because they've seen something new and they've seen somebody that they want to follow after, that they want to believe, that they want to see the future that this woman has. And so they decide they're going to follow her. And as they begin to follow her, the mother-in-law, her name's Naomi, she's like, hey, look, girls, you just need to turn back. You just need to go back to Moab. Because here's the deal, I don't have any sons that you can marry. I don't even know what family is left back there. There is no hope for you if you go with me because I would have to get remarried and have kids for you to ever have the hope of getting married again. And she's like, you guys just stay here. But see, the problem is these girls have had a taste of true faith, of something real. And these girls are faced with a choice. They can turn back and continue to go back to their culture of what they're used to, what they've grown up in, or they can choose to have faith in a different future. And they choose two different things. And we're going to pick up the story in Ruth 1:14, and it says this. This is right when the two of them are making this decision. It says, in this they wept aloud again. It says, then Orpah kissed her mother-in-law goodbye, and Ruth clung to her. See, Orpah made a decision based on her comfort, and Ruth made a decision based on her courage. And see, I think we all want something better for our life. We all want something different. We all have these dreams, these aspirations, these hopes, these things that we want to accomplish in life. But what we have to realize is that our daily decisions determine our end destination. And the decisions that you and I are making every single day is what's happening. It's the product of our life right now. And if you don't like what your life looks like, then you need to begin to look at the decisions that you're making because your decisions are leading you to the place that you're at right now. See, Orpah, she kissed and left and went home. And Ruth, she clung. She clung to hope. She clung to future. She clung to something different. When I was 19, I had a choice to make. And I believe that this one single choice was a defining moment for the rest of my life. See, when I was 19, I had been in a relationship for many years, and it was a terrible relationship. It was a relationship that was not physically abusive, but kind of with words and just the way that they talked and how I felt, and it just this continual cycle of just kind of beating down who I was. And I remember being in church one day because that's what you were supposed to do. You were supposed to go to church. And so I was at church that day, and I had known a lot about God. I had been in church my whole life, but I didn't really truly know God because it was never my faith. And I remember sitting in the back of church that day, and I just began to have this picture of my life. And I saw the path that I was going down, and I saw what that was producing in my life, and the insecurity that I had, and the fear, and the worry, and just the doubt, and who I was becoming I didn't like. And so I was sitting in the back of that auditorium, and as I was sitting there, I was like, I have a decision to make. I can choose to stay what's comfortable, what I've known for a long time. Or I can choose to step out of that and have a hope for something different. And I remember having this vivid picture of my life. And I decided that day that that wasn't going to be my life anymore. And I went home and I picked up the phone and I called this guy and I was like, I can't do this anymore. I know this is random. I know that it doesn't make sense, but I can't do this anymore. And I hung up the phone and that was it. And there was a whole lot of other things that came with that, but it was the start of a process where a decision began to lead to a different place in my life. And see, our decisions, large or small, impact every single thing that is happening in life today. See, what we say yes to in life, it begins to shape us. See, a lot of us, we want a better marriage or a better family, but we say yes to staying later at work instead of saying yes to coming home with our family. See, what you say yes to begins to shape your life. You know, a lot of us, we want better health, but we choose every day to get up and eat whatever. You got a donut when you walked in here today. I know you did. See, what you say yes to begins to shape your life. You know, some of us, we're like, yeah, I know I want a godly guy, or I know I want a girl, but there's this guy and he's so cute and I'm just going to, he's right here and maybe this is the one. And we say yes to that, but it's leading us further and further away from the place that God has us. See, what you say yes to shapes your life. Your daily decisions determine your end destination. Orpah, she chose comfort. Ruth chose courage. How many of you guys have ever heard of the story of David and Goliath? Most everybody, if you've been in church, even if you haven't been at church, you heard of this little shepherd boy, David, who kills this giant Goliath, who's been tormenting this army, and this little shepherd boy comes and annihilates this giant. And as I was studying, I realized something that is so critical. Do you realize that the story of David and Goliath began with the choice that Ruth and Orpah made? See, Orpah, when she made the choice to remain comfortable and go back to what she already knew, she became the mother of Goliath. Can you imagine birthing a giant? No. And Ruth, she was the great-grandmother of King David. See, one decision produced a defeated giant, and another produced a victorious king. Our decisions have everything to do with where we end up. And I think there's so many of us that think that our decisions don't matter. But while we're waiting, we have these constant moments where we have an opportunity to decide, am I going this way or am I going this way? And just like Ruth and just like Orpah, we have a decision to make. And if you want to live the life that God intended you to live, then here's the deal. You have to choose continuous faith over momentary comfort. Because it's so easy in life when we want something different, when we want something greater, to begin to step back sometimes and just say, well, this is comfortable and I'm tired and I'm sick of waiting and I don't want to move forward. Continuous faith over momentary comfort. In Ruth 1:16-18, it says this, and I love Ruth's passion because she's looking at her future and she is declaring something different. She's saying, I have faith for my future and I am not looking back. And she says this, don't urge me to leave you or to turn back from following you. She's telling her mother-in-law this. She says, for where you go, I'm going to go. Where you lodge, I'm going to lodge. Your people shall be my people, and your God, my God. Where you die, I die, and there I will be buried. And then she goes a step further, and she's telling God, she's saying, may the Lord do to me and worse if anything but death departs you and me. She's saying, don't let me leave this decision. In a moment of comfort, don't let me walk away from this because I am here for the long haul. And it says when Naomi saw that she was determined to go with her, she didn't say anything else. She just let her come. See, Ruth knew that she wanted something different for her life than she had ever experienced before. And I think that is so many of us. We are not where we want to be. We know that there's something greater for our future. We know that there's some greater plan for our finances, for our marriage, for our kids, for our relationships. It doesn't matter what it is. We know that we want the future of that to look different. But here's the deal. If you do not have faith for your future, you will have no power in your present. If you don't have faith to believe that there is something greater for your future, then when distractions come up, when that guy comes up, you know what's going to happen? We're going to turn to the side and we're going to be led away because if you don't have faith for your future, you have no power in your present. And I think there's a lot of us out there that have to get a different picture of what our future looks like. See, there's so many of us that say, oh, I want to be financially free. But yet we just spend frivolously. I know for me, how many of you guys get credit card offers in the mail all the time? Okay, so I got this credit card, and I get an offer in the mail at least twice a month. And it's like, oh, you're pre-approved for this much to get a car, and you can do this, and if you just show up at this dealership and sign the paperwork, you can drive home a new car today. And I'm like, oh man, I really want a new car. That kind of sounds good. I would love to have that. My car is kind of old, and but I have a plan for my financial future, which means that momentary comfort does not distract me from that. And when you have a plan for your marriage, and when you have a plan for your finances, and when you have a plan for your family, we're not distracted by the momentary comforts that come up in our life. You know, when I was 19 and I made that decision, I remember going home and saying, things have to be different for me. I have to get a plan for where my life is going and what it's going to look like because this isn't it. And I remember going home and getting on my face before God and just crying out and saying, God, what do you want this to look like? Because I'm confused, I'm broken, I'm hurting, I'm empty. And I need you to tell me who I am. I need you to tell me what my future looks like. And I began to sit down and I began to open my Bible and I started writing down scripture that related to my situation. And I just started saying, God, show me my passions. Show me the things that you've gifted me in. And I just start writing and writing and writing. And one day, probably 6 months after that, I remember sitting down and going, I'm writing a mission statement for my life. Like, I'm going to write it down. What is my life going to look like 20 years from now? What do I want to be doing? I'm writing it down. And as I was studying for this message, I remembered I have my journal from 17 years ago. And I pulled it out. And I opened it up, and guess what was written down? The mission statement for my life. And let me tell you something. I don't know if it's up there. Every single one of those things that's on that list, I'm walking out today. 17 years ago, I sat down and said, God, what do you want my life to look like? Somebody said, hey, Shayla, why'd you write that last thing in red? And I was like, it was like blood. I'm doing this. And then, you know what? A few days later, I was like, man, this kind of revolves around me leading in ministry with a husband, and I don't even know what that looks like. And so I made a list of what I wanted in a guy. Listen, I put, he loves God with all of his heart. He's obedient to God's plan. He loves me for me. He's forgiving because I was broken. He's bold in the things of God. He's an encourager. He's knowledgeable of the word. Forget the spelling. Attractive, athletic, determined, focused, knows where he's going, a man of his word. He likes children. He makes me laugh. He's got a good personality. He stands up for what he believes. He's a protector. He's someone that I can feel comfortable with, and he enjoys spending time with me. There's one thing that I missed: a full head of hair. Hindsight is 2020, let me tell you. Like, if I would have known now, it would have been on the list. But I want to tell you, 17 years ago, I wrote this down. And that is the man that I married. That is this person I spend the rest of my life with, because you know what? If you don't have faith for your future, you will have no power in your present. And you have got to get a plan for your future. Charles Stanley says this: our willingness to wait reveals the value we place on the object we're waiting for. Some of us are so quick to make decisions. We're so quick to abandon the things that we love and that we want for our life. So you can't rush something that you want to last forever. And it's time we stop rushing through our relationships and rushing through our life and rushing through our decisions, and stop and take a moment and have this continuous faith over that momentary comfort. And I think the last thing that we have to do in this process is that we have to trust that God is at work while you work. See, a lot of us, we just want to say, oh, God, I'm trusting you that these great things are going to happen in my life, and I'm so excited. And I feel like Melissa Lane. She's like, gets so excited about those things. And we get so excited, like saying, God, bring me this, God, bring me this. But what we don't realize is we have to begin to work. We have to begin to take the steps. We have to begin to move forward, because when you work, it is guaranteed that God is working even harder than you are. He's more diligent, and the Bible shows us over and over and over again that it's your move that moves God. It says, ask, and it will be given to you. It says, knock, and the door will be open. It says, seek, and you will find. It says, give, and it will be given to you. Your move moves God. And we have to trust God while we work. Because we have to begin to put action to our faith and not just lip service. See, you can always trust that God is at work while you work. I hear people say all the time, I want a healthier marriage. I want a better marriage. Be a healthier person. You want to look better, feel better? Be a more disciplined person. You want God to show up in your finances? Trust God and quit spending frivolously. It's your move. But you have to trust God in that. See, Ruth, when she shows up in Israel, she gets to work. Because she realizes when she shows up, somebody's got to provide for this family. And she could be focused on, oh, how am I going to get a man, and who's coming to me, and all of these different things. And she can focus on that, or she can focus on the thing that is at hand in front of her, that's going to prosper her, that's going to make things better for her. And so she gets to work. And in Ruth 2:2-7, it says this. It says, Ruth the Moabitess said to Naomi, please let me go to the field and glean among the ears of grain after the one in whose sight I may find favor. And Naomi said to her, go, my daughter. So she departed, and she went, and she gleaned in the field after the reapers, and she happened to come to the portion of the field that belonged to Boaz. Now, you might not know this story, but Boaz is actually a relative, the one that could redeem her, the one that could marry her, the one that could give her a future. And lo and behold, she goes to work, and where does she find herself? In the field of the one who has the answer to everything she's been looking for. And it says, so she happened to come to the portion of the field belonging to Boaz, who is the family of Elimelech. And now behold, Boaz came from Bethlehem and said to the reapers, may the Lord be with you. And they said to him, may the Lord bless you. And then Boaz said to his servant who was in charge of the reapers, Who's this chick over here? I've never seen her before. And he notices her. And the reapers say that she is the young Moabite woman who returned with Naomi from the land of Moab. And she said, please let me glean after the other reapers among the sheaves. Thus she has come and she has remained from morning until now. She worked. And she's been sitting at the house for a while. You see, when Ruth got to work, God led her to the right place in the right moment at the right time. See, we have to trust God while we work. In Proverbs, it says, trust in the Lord with all of your heart. Lean not on your own understanding, but in all of your ways acknowledge him, and he will direct your path. There might be some of you guys out there today. You don't understand why you're at where you're at in life. Maybe there's decisions that you've made that have totally led you down the wrong path. But we serve a God whose name is Jehovah, who is a redeemer. And his plan for you is greater than anything in your past. And he has the ability, with one decision, to position you for your future.
Thank you for checking out Coastal Community Church. We hope that you receive hope and encouragement through this week's message. If this ministry has impacted your life in any way, please share your story at mystory@coastalcommunity.tv. We hope you enjoy the service.